I'm Vicki Hogarth, and welcome to Southwest Magazine. My guest today is Dana Planetta, Executive Director at Charlotte DialARide, who is retiring after 17 years. Thank you so much for being here today, Dana.
Thank you for having me.
So 17 years at DialARide, you were there from pretty much the very beginning. Can you tell me about how your career there started?
Well, the Community Foundation held public consultations, and from that there was a steering committee, passionate people that wanted to see something happen, and they did all the research. They put all the policies in place, and they advertised for a person to run it. And in the beginning it was to be a 3-month pilot project, and if we were successful in getting funding to continue, we could continue. So there was, I believe, a $20,000 grant from another organization who had tried to start something up. So and John Castell, as you know, was part of the whole thing, and even Kate Akaji, one of our volunteer drivers and board members. So from there, I was hired and said, okay, here you go. Here's an office space and a desk, some policies, and some money. Even they had a couple of members that wanted to belong, and a couple of volunteer drivers. And from that, you know, I and the board recruited more members, more volunteer drivers. I started in July of 2005, and then in September the 5th, I believe, we were to have our first drive. Wow. And we made it happen. And it was originally supposed to be for just people needing drives within Charlotte County, but we quickly realized that people couldn't get to their doctor appointments in St. John, and so we changed, which meant that it was costing more money. There was not any dialysis set up at the time in St. Stephen, so if someone needed dialysis, we had to take them to St. John. So anyway, and we, you know, it was a team effort, applied for funding, and we got provincial money for 3 years, and then from there on we kept on going. So, and yeah, I grew with it, you know, and we all grew together, and now it's like, wow, there's so many things on the go. But like I said, it's a great team effort of everyone, and we couldn't do it without our volunteers, for sure.
I think most people who live in Charlotte County know DialARide, or we know someone who's used it, whether it be for medical appointments or a job, and it really is the original rideshare of Charlotte County. For people who might be new to the community, how do you explain what DialARide does?
Well, volunteer drivers take people to their appointments. They pay just a small membership fee for the family, and then a really affordable drive fee, because the whole idea is to help people with their income and poverty reduction. And so then to book the drive, we have a list of volunteers and in different areas. So once they're a member, I mean, they've applied to be a member, and they would call and say, okay, I need a drive. It needs to be like 48 hours ahead. So I need a drive next week to place A, you know, and I have an appointment at such and such a time. So then our dispatcher, we have a dispatcher, I'm not the only one there. We have a dispatcher, and then she would look through and say, okay, well, this volunteer lives closest. Let's give them a call, see if they're available at that time. And if they are, then we call the person back, and yes, they're ready. They will take you, and it's set. Mm-hmm. When just before COVID hit, we had put into place online scheduling. It keeps our statistics and everything. So we have all the members in there, all the volunteers in there, and we set that appointment in there, and it's booked, and it tracks, and then we put the reason for the drive, whether it was medical, and so we can keep all those statistics. Anyway, that was in place in January, just knowing, yeah, we have to get out of the paper, you know, and all these little appointment slips, and you've got these. So we put that in place in January 2020, and come March, when everything shut down, we were able to work online at home and keep everything going. Although a lot of the drives were canceled because doctors were canceling, and but there were still essential people, you know, that needed to. They had to go to the specialist. Some people to St. John for their eye treatment to prevent them going blind, and then we switched to doing deliveries. And anyone that needed groceries, if they would order online, and we would come pick it up. And that would just be, you know, we made an agreement with the grocery stores to try and facilitate it working, you know, the best we could. And we also began doing the food deliveries for the food banks, the one in St. Stephen and in St. George, and like we offered to whoever needed it. And we didn't charge them a ride fee or anything, you know, and we're continuing, like found out, hey, that's a good thing, you know, so we're continuing to do that. The St. Stephen Volunteer Center, they have their own method now, but we helped them out for quite a while, and happy to do it again if they need it. So yeah, so we did a lot of deliveries, and that helps. In the wintertime, seniors are kind of timid to go out on the ice, and like, you know, one lady called and well, I need to go, and this was before all this happened, get groceries, and I'm a little nervous going out in the, you know, in the ice, and well, we could deliver it, you know, and instead of a two-way drive, it's only going to be charged for a one-way drive, so you're going to save money, and we can bring it to you, and, you know, like, people are so appreciative, you know, of what Charlotte DialARide does, our volunteers, yeah.
When you live in a community like this, it's always overwhelming, the feeling you get from the community rising to the occasion to come up with the solution to the problems and the different issues we face. And transportation is obviously a hurdle for a lot of people. In my household, we have one car, and that it could be problematic if one of us needed to be at an appointment in St. John. And I've had friends use DialARide who don't have cars at all, but suddenly at a point in their life didn't realize they'd be requiring cancer treatment. And so at that point, do you move to St. John, or do you give yourself the quality of life that you want and stay in the town that you love? So it must be amazing having 17 years of experience like you do from the beginning to see how a program like this can shape a community, whether it be letting people stay in their home while they get treatments they need that are far away, or get to a job or a training program.
Exactly.
So what are some, it doesn't necessarily have to be moments, but have you seen this overall change? It must be beautiful to look back on and say, you know, that there's very specific lives you've changed from what you do, but can you step back and see the full picture of how you've played a key role in the community?
Yeah, well, one example is a young lady, this was years ago, she moved here. I think she lived out in Rolling Dam. I think her mom was, you know, she moved from another province. Her mom was here working, so she couldn't take her to drives. So she signed up, and she was a single mom, and she was pregnant. So she needed first some drives to her doctor. She was also taking her GED. So we took her back and forth for her GED. Then she went to NBCC and she took a course, and then she got a job, and then she didn't need us anymore, and that's a success for her. I mean, so that's just one life, and we've had others that we've taken to NBCC, and they have a course, and now they have jobs. There's so many of those. And then John had told you the story about the children that we'd taken for therapy that, you know, with autism, and they've successfully been able to go to school. Oh, there's so many, and most recently we had 2 people that they were going blind, and the treatments with the eye doctor and then a final surgery, I guess probably laser surgery, whatever, they can now, they can see, like, and there was one lady, and then she told her brother-in-law about it. He just finished his, and now he was able to return to a job, which he didn't think that he would be able to do.
It's so much of our mental health it can be part of the whole, right? Whether it's you're going for cancer treatment, but also being able to stay in your own home can play such a huge role in how you're able to handle a challenge thrown your way. So you must feel that a lot too. And from a community standpoint, when we look at a town like St. Andrews that's been able to grow significantly in population, I think this is the fastest growing town in the last 5 years, under 5,000 people in New Brunswick, but it's because of organizations like this that don't make people have to choose between either moving to a city to get the treatment they want. They don't have to choose when they have something like this. How have you seen the growth in terms of volunteers over 17 years? Have you noticed that and where are they located throughout Charlotte County?
It's an ongoing thing, trying to recruit volunteers. We do have, we seem to keep a level, like a 20-ish, 24-ish, around there. You might have someone that actually, we had a former volunteer years ago that, he stopped because he wasn't feeling well, and then now he's joined us as a member, and we're able to take him, and actually quite a few of those cases where volunteers, maybe they're, they like, I'm a little tired, or I have a medical issue that I don't want to, but we also have had some younger people that can do a little bit in the morning on their way to work, but then they may relocate and move to St. John or move to another area. But in Charlotte County, we've got volunteers on Grand Manan Island, trying to get some on Deer Island, but we do service like people. Actually, we've taken the van, our new van, over to pick someone up on the ferry and bring them back. So the dispatcher is figuring out, okay, so in order to get that, we have to pick up this time and to get to the appointment, and you got to figure in the two, it's quite an ordeal. But on Grand Manan, we have 2 volunteers there, and they usually will drive the person from their home to the ferry landing to catch the ferry. And then we have another volunteer meet them at Black's Harbor, and then take them on to whether they're going to St. John or to wherever, to an appointment in St. George.
Wow.
They're scattered all over, but I'd say, we have quite a few in St. Andrews. We've got a volunteer in Canal. All over. And
there's a whole kind of dispatch service that you do in terms of connecting the network to the rides needed.
Yeah, on a particular day. And there's a lot of reoccurring, drives to vocational center or to work. So those are like everyday ones, but then you'll get new requests for appointments, and probably, out of, I'm forgetting how many complete members right now, but I did a query and there was like 185 different people that had like 6,000 drives in a year. And some of them may have had 6 drives, but others might have had, 10 drives a week, coming and going. So there's...
So on that topic of especially the volunteers, and I know gas prices are high, but there is a level of compensation that is at play here. So can you speak a little bit to that, just in case we're hitting some ears at home of volunteers that might be interested in being a part of this?
For sure. When a volunteer does a drive for one of our members, they just check their odometer when they leave their home, to go get the person, and then to do the drive, and then when they return home. So they're compensated for, their gas mileage. We're giving 46 cents per kilometer right now. It helps. It doesn't, do a lot for wear and tear, but it is. And we did get some help from where the gas prices have been going crazy. The Economic and Social Inclusion Network has helped out all the driving programs in the province, giving them a little extra grant to help out. It's a one-time thing, so that helps. We had raised it to 40 cents last year. So, but that wasn't going to do much with all these prices.
But it could be a way, I suppose, if, let's say, for instance, a volunteer has a job to go to in the city, you could advertise that, hey, I leave St. Andrews or St. Stephen at this time. I could pick someone up for this ride, kind of a thing.
Exactly, and we do have a real need early in the morning.
Okay.
Because we have these daily reoccurring ones, and if a volunteer needs to take someone to the regional, then they're gone out of Charlotte County and you're minus a volunteer for that day. But if someone was just traveling to work and they could just, take one person, that means that we can accommodate everyone. So yeah.
I know one of the biggest new additions in this year is the van you have now that's a wheelchair access, and that's really changed the game for DialARide in terms of being able to accommodate people with mobility issues, whether they're in a wheelchair or just have trouble getting in and out of vehicles. You can now accommodate them. I'm lucky enough that it's often parked outside the building where I work, so I get to look at it a lot, and I see that it is used quite often too. So can you tell me a little bit about what brought on the need for this vehicle and how it's used?
It's always been a wish since day one, I think, to someday, because we're alternative transportation and we want to be available for everyone. And we were able to, up until that point, if someone was able to get out of the wheelchair and transfer into a vehicle, we could accommodate that and fold up the wheelchair. But it's funny because the opportunity came up with one of the members who joined us, and she just mentioned, yes, we have a wheelchair accessible van, but we want to join DialARide, and she didn't need it, but her husband had needed it. And she was planning on selling it. So I mentioned it to John, and everything went, woo! It just was meant to happen, and so that was a dream of his and our board and me, from day one. But you're like, well, yes, we can probably get one, but are we going to be able to afford to run it? And so we did a big fundraising campaign, and the J.T. Clark Family Foundation had us make a challenge that we were going to raise a certain amount, and if we raised that, they would match it. And so we were between July and November, I think it was, we did it, and we did a little bit more, and they matched it, and that enabled us to start an endowment fund with the Fundy Community Foundation. So that will hopefully build through the years and give us more stability, with any interests that we, if we're able to add to that endowment fund.
And that must mean a lot too I'm sure there are even families that do have cars but aren't able to accommodate a family member in a wheelchair. So it must have been emotional to do the first ride.
It was pretty cool. Yeah, it was.
So in terms of, you are retiring after 17 years, but you're in the midst of training a successor to your position. Can you tell me a little bit about that process and keeping the Charlotte DialARide, do I call it a dynasty, the era, continuing?
We hired Julie Dean, and she started on May the 2nd. So I've been, we've been shadowing up till now and will until the end of the month. I was sitting in the chair and she was watching me. Now she's sitting in the chair and I'm watching her, and every day, oh yes, I have to tell you about this. And we're going through everything, and she's making notes, and of course I'm going to be around if she needs any questions answered. But I think, and Jeannie, she's our dispatcher. She's got all experience too, and we were able to hire a part-time person that works 9 hours a week. And Erica, and she can fill in if somebody has a day off, if the dispatcher. So we're really, I think, and I'm feeling really good that it's a good time to leave it in a good spot. Not that I did it all. I mean, the board is, you know, amazing, and they're very supportive, and yeah.
Could you have ever imagined it would grow to the success that it's at? I say this just knowing where it started to how many drivers you have now.
Yeah, you didn't know. You just didn't think about it. Yep, it's going to happen.
And it has become, I think that's what I do love about, I can't say this enough, but when you live in a place like Charlotte County, the community is what rises to the occasion, that finds the solution. And often in doing that, sometimes when you wait for government or wait for someone else from the outside to come in and step up, it doesn't happen, or it takes too long, or it's not exactly what you need. But when you do it yourself, you know, you find the solution that's exactly needed. You're listening to the people because they're your neighbors. And I know Charlotte DialARide has become a model for other communities to follow.
Yes,
because of how you responded. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, we were the first in the province, and then they saw that it was a success, and the number of drives and how it was helping people, and we'd do our reports, and they encouraged us to help promote it to the rest of the province. So I mean, John has gone to different presentations in the province. I remember I went to Alma a couple of times, and I'm like thinking I'm going to get lost, and made a presentation to a community there, and they started. And so there's I'm not sure if I have the number right. You can look on the Economic and Social Inclusion Network page, but I think there's like 12 DialARides in the province. And yeah, you didn't dream that it could become that, you know, but we also were able to apply for funding from the ESIC, the Economic and Social Inclusion Network. We've also applied for funding from United Way, and they are amazing. They help you with not only funding, but putting on workshops to train board members or whatever, you know, anything that we ask, they can help. And so ESIC, the Vibrant Community Charlotte County, is sort of like the local part of that. Rotary clubs, Kiwanis St. Andrews, Kiwanis St. Stephen, and Fundy Community Foundation, and we're applying for grants for them. Like, there's such an underground of helpers everywhere. Like, we partner with Charlotte County Cancer and help them with their, you know, if people need drives, the transition house, and you see like all the, you know, the other groups that are doing things, and so you collaborate, and how can we help you? How can you help us? You know, it's connections. And Charlotte County is unique, I think, to any area.
And I definitely think, too, I mean, as we're seeing this as sort of a universal trend right now, especially with the baby boomer generation getting older in retirement, there is this change now where they are trying to keep more people in their homes longer, and less necessarily going to long-term care homes earlier than they need to, just because it does help with that your mental health and whatnot, to stay in your home, which obviously means something like Charlotte DialARide will be playing an even more pivotal role in the future. Are you seeing that already sort of taking shape?
Yes, definitely. And then people are able to remain independent, and maybe they have a neighbor that helps them sometimes, but if they, you know, with us, then they've got their own, they want to book an appointment for a certain day. They don't have to check and see if their neighbor or their family member is available, and the family members may be working during the day and need to take time off. And people can live out in Rolling Dam, or they can live, you know, way out in the country, and know that, okay, we can help them. So stay in their homes. So
that's
yes,
wonderful.
for sure.
Well, now with retirement just really days away, you mentioned to me before we started filming that you might be volunteering more now that you have
I might
free
take
time.
a bit of a break. We've got one vehicle. Actually, we're hoping to collaborate with the project Car Ride, Blacks Harbor,
Right.
the electric car vehicles. And they're, you know, working with us that if we have a volunteer that doesn't have a vehicle, and it's not in place yet, but it's in the works, that they would be able to drive an electric vehicle, and hence you've got someone that can drive that. So
Well, it'll be fascinating to watch the future, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for what you've done and what you've contributed to the community, and congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you.
My guest today has been Dana Planetta, Executive Director at Charlotte DialARide, who is retiring after 17 years. I'm Vicki Hogarth. Thank you for watching Southwest Magazine.
Southwest Magazine is a news and public affairs production of CHCO Television.